Okay, so just a second. Yeah, so this was what we previously did, which is we had opinion polls where epsilon is the size of the internal and 1 minus delta was the probability estimate, and we estimated the sample size to be this much. And then we also discussed Chernoff bounds. So a statement of the Chernoff bounds I am putting in here. We didn't exactly specify the statement last time. So let x1 to xn be independent and identically distributed random variables, commonly known as IIDs. X be the sum of the random variables and mu be the expected value of the summation. Yeah. So Chernoff bound says that if you look at the probability of x minus mu, yeah, the deviation from the mean, probability that it is at least delta times mu. Okay, so let me just use a different symbol here because we are already used delta for something. It is 8 times mu. Yeah, is less than or equal to 2 e raised to minus mu a squared by 3. Okay, so and this is for all a belonging to 0 to 1. Yeah, so this is the statement of Chernoff bounds. Yeah. So let xi be the opinion, the preference of the ith randomly chose person, whether he want to choose 1 or 0. Yeah. So yeah, then this also is like our opinion polls only, except that we were looking at summation of x, so x by n. So we were interested in the fraction of people who voted for 1, right? So we were interested in x by 1. So this same statement tells us that x by n minus, so our mu was actually, so if you remember the mu prime, the mu we had, yeah, so the let it call be mu prime, it is actually this mu divided by n. Yeah, so mu prime is the expected value of xi. It is the actual voting percentage who voted for 1. Percentage of people preferring 1. And that is mu prime. And mu prime is actually equal to mu by n. So this is mu prime here divided by at least equal to a times n times mu prime. I'm just substituting the values here. Yeah. So n we already divided, so there's no n here. Is less than or equal to 2 e raised to minus, again mu is n times mu prime. Yeah, and a squared by 3. And yeah, this is what we get. Is it clear how I got this from this?
So please explain this once more.
I just divided this equation divided by n. Yeah. So I took that first equation and divided it by n. So x by n, mu by n is mu prime. Mu prime is the actual people who voted for 1, which is the expected value of xi. Yeah. And again, this was n mu prime. When I divided by n, it became a mu prime. And I just substituted mu equal to n mu prime here. That's all. And yeah, what did we want this to be? So let's say so this was kind of our epsilon. A mu prime is kind of our epsilon, right? And this quantity is kind of our delta. Yeah. So let's just substitute and find the value for n. Yeah. So let's a mu prime we can substitute by epsilon. Yeah. So yeah, let's do it. So 2 times e raised to minus. So you have a squared mu prime squared divided by mu prime you will get. You get A mu prime the whole square divided by mu prime into 3. Yeah. And this has to be less than or equal to delta. We want the probability of being outside the interval to be smaller than delta. Yeah. And let's substitute A mu prime to be equal to epsilon. So it is 2 e raised to minus n epsilon squared by mu prime. This is at most delta. And then we take logarithms. Yeah. So if you take log, you will get what? Yeah. So you will do log 2 by delta is less than or equal to n epsilon squared by 3 mu prime. And if you just rearrange, n has to be at least 1 by epsilon squared times 3 mu prime times log 2 by delta. Is that fine? I did the same calculation as yesterday, but with the new Chernov's inequality. Yeah. So important thing to notice is when I did it with Chebyshev, this number was 1 by 4 times epsilon squared delta. Yeah. Suddenly this 1 by delta became log 2 by delta. Yeah. So if you wanted to get 99% confidence, delta would be 1 by 100. So here you will be multiplying by 100. You will be getting a multiplication factor of 1 by delta, which is 100. Here you will be getting a multiplication factor of log 200. Yeah. So log 200 is exponentially smaller than just 100. Yeah, so this is exponentially smaller. Exponentially smaller. Yeah. So yeah, so Chernoff bounds allows us to use sample size which is much smaller, exponentially smaller. Yeah? And still you can get the same guarantees. Okay. So yesterday I think we worked out this for 99% and some confidence and everything, and that was working out to be just give me a second. Yeah, and that was working out to be a very large number. Now, if you put the same thing here, yeah, so you will have a much smaller, yeah, I mean n, and if you can just sample much smaller n, we can still get better guarantees. Okay, so yeah, so this is Chernoff bounds. So the proof for this is, I mean, we cannot cover it in this small course. I mean, class. It is typically only covered in PhD level lectures and everything. Yeah. But this, I mean, this comes up in various places, whether it is in like computer science or some other area. It comes up in all sorts of places. And if you just remember this statement, yeah, you will be able to tackle most of those problems. There is, yeah, you will be able to tackle most of those problems, and yeah, there is nothing, yeah, yeah. How to prove it is a different thing. That will, so I will give you a reference regarding the proof and everything. You can go over it, yeah. But otherwise, this is, yeah. I mean, how what Chernoff bounds is and how you use it. Yeah. So, okay, so there will also have some other examples in the tutorials and everything. Okay. Any questions regarding this? You want to? Okay. So let's move on to the next part. Yeah. So, yeah. So far, all the random variables we saw in class were discrete random variables. So, so the discrete random variables, we have what is called the probability mass function, PMF. Yeah. Is that a problem with everyone? The audio is lagging because mean, I am using the same old setup that we regularly use. So
There's no problem. We can hear clearly.
yeah. So yeah, it might be a problem at your end. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what was the PMF? So what do you mean by Px of x? What do you mean by Px of x? It is the probability that the random variable x takes the value small x. Yeah. Suppose I choose a random number in the interval 0 to 1, a random real number. A random real number in the range 0 to 1. I choose a random real number. Yeah, this might be okay. 0 to 1 is some, I don't know, it is some random real number in 0 to 1. Now, what is the PMF of that? What is the probability of x equal to x? This we discussed in the second lecture itself.
Close to
So
zero.
0.
It is 0. Yeah. So PMF doesn't make any sense for a continuous random variable. It doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, PMF is always 0 for a continuous random variable. Now, so what will you do when you have continuous random variables? Okay, for continuous random variable, what we'll have what is called a PDF or probability density function. Yeah. Yeah. So what is the probability density function? So it is a function like this. Okay, it is a function. Yeah. Which yeah, I mean, let's say for this particular function, it is yeah, it is actually equal to fx equal to 1. Yeah. Now, how do you find the probability of this random variable? This particular random variable is in the range x belongs to the range, let's say 0 to 0.5. What do you think this probability is?
1.5.
It is going to be the size of the interval. Probability of a real random variable belonging to an interval is going to be the size of that interval, a uniform real random variable. Yeah? This is going to be 0.5. So how do you get this 0.5? You essentially integrate the function 1 in the range 0 to 0.5. Right? Yeah. So probability density function is that function you should integrate so that you can get the probability of that random variable in any interval. Yeah. So probability of x belong to any interval. Let's say there is an interval a to b. Yeah. This is essentially equal to the integral of a to b, the density function. Okay. So this is actually the definition of probability density function. It is that function which you should integrate so that you can get the probability in any interval. Yeah. So now if probability of x equal to x equal to fx of x, is that true? Can that happen?
No, sir.
Why cannot?
Because we have to consider all the integral values from 0 to x.
No. So what do you mean by only x? So only x is the interval x comma x itself. The length of the interval is 0. Yeah. And
Okay.
what do you mean by integral over a I mean where the interval length is 0? If you integrate, you will get 0.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this definition also takes into account that okay, individual things will have 0 probability, because then you will be integrating over empty intervals. Yeah, interval which doesn't have any length, 0 length. Then so everybody knows what an integral is, no? It is the area under the curve. So if you have x here, yeah, this is fx. So maybe this looks. So if you had let's say 0 to 1. Yeah. So basically, the fx value is constant. Yeah, I mean, outside 0, it is 0. Yeah. So here it is. Yeah. And if you want to take a small interval of length epsilon, yeah, basically you integrate fx yeah, in that interval. So that is actually the area of this rectangular box. And the area of this rectangular box happens to be epsilon, which is the length of the interval. Yeah. So in this case, yeah, I mean, the length of the interval itself gives you the area, and that also happens to be your probability. And it's perfectly fine. Yeah. So things are good. Okay, it makes sense. But now let me just try something different. So what if x is uniformly real number in the interval 0 to 3? Yeah, it's a uniformly real number in the interval 0 to 3. What do you think the density function is? What do you think the density function is? Excuse me.
So 1 by 3.
Yeah. How do you get 1 by 3?
Because integration of x from 0 to 3 into 1 by 3 would be 1. And
yeah. So, I mean, it's a uniformly real number. So any interval should have the same probability mass, right? Yeah. So no matter where you take the interval, it should only depend upon the length of the interval. So the density function should be a constant. That much is clear because it's uniform. Density function has to be constant. But what is this constant? We don't know. Yeah, what this number c should be, we don't know. Yeah, but we know that the total probability has to be equal to 1. So if you integrate this c from 0 to 3 dx, this has to be equal to 1. Yeah, and if you just do this integration, then c will work out to be 1 by 3. Make sense? Yeah. So many a times the probability density function will not be given to you. Yeah, you'll be just be given okay, x is some uniform in this interval or something like that, and then you will need to okay do some yeah manipulations like this, calculate some integral and everything to find out your probability density function. And once you have your probability density function for any event, you just need to do integration of that function. Yeah. So it's slightly different than what we have been doing for discrete random variables. And all the formulas for discrete random variables, if you just replace summation by integral, you will get the same formula but for continuous random variables. Okay, more or less. Okay. Okay, so let's look at some other continuous distribution. So uniform distribution is not the only continuous distribution. So let's look at one more thing. So what is the expected value of this? How do you find the expected value of x?
The x integration of fx dx in the range 0 to 3.
So earlier in that formula we had summation. So here we will have just integral over x. Yeah. There earlier we had x PMF of x. Here we will have PDF of x. Okay. It's the same old formula. I just replaced summation by integral and probability mass function by probability density function. Okay. So yeah, PMF and PDF is analogous, but not exactly the same because PDF doesn't give you the probability of that function at any point or anything like that. Okay, it is a function you should integrate such that you will get the probability. And if you integrate over empty intervals, it is 0. Okay. So yeah, could you tell me the expected value of this random variable?
So 0 plus 3 by 2.
Yes, it is this x times. So we said that this constant is equal to 1 by 3. So it is actually 1 by 3 dx. Yeah. So this is 1 by 3 into, so there is so x equal to 0 to 3, because outside there this probability mass function is equal to 0. So it is x squared by 2, 0 to 3, and 9 by 2 divided by 3, that is yeah, 3 by 2, which is 1.5. Yeah, which you would have guessed even without this calculation. Okay. I mean, it's uniform, so it has to be the midpoint. Yeah, fine. So that is great, but what about the variance? What do you think the variance is? Yeah. Again, we will replace the summation with the integral. Integral over x. X minus yeah, 1.5 the whole squared, yeah, times fx dx. This was the formula in the discrete distribution case. I just replaced the summation by integral. X minus mu the whole square. Yeah. So yeah. So this is one way of calculating it, but we also had another formula for it, which also works. Okay. This is expected value of x squared minus expected value of x the whole square. So which is integral over x squared fx of x dx minus 1.5 squared. So this also works. You can either do it like this or do it like this. Yeah. So how much is this coming to be? X squared integral is x cubed by 3. And you have the limits of 0 to 3 minus 1.5 squared. Yeah, so if you just substitute it, so it is 3 cubed by 3, which is yeah, 9 minus 1.5 squared. Yeah, so you have to compute it. So every time you will have to do this integral. Okay, and that's the way to do it. Okay, and yeah, now you could also ask the question, okay, suppose you are uniform in the range A to B. So there is some interval A. A could be something that a parameter. Okay, A might be 1 by 3, B might be 20. Yeah, in the range, so you have a real random variable which is uniform in the interval A to B. You need to compute the expected value and the variance. Okay, yeah, you have to do it yourself. It's a good homework to do. It's also sold in the textbook. Yeah, don't worry about it, but it's better you work it out yourself. Okay, so uniform. So you need to first compute the density function, then compute the, so let's look at the density function first. We'll do the density function quickly. So this is your x and this is your fx. So it is uniform in the interval A to B. That means it is some uniform, yeah. So what is this number C? What is C? How do you find out C?
1 over b minus a.
Yeah, so yeah, so the way to find out C is integral A to B C dx. Yeah, and this has to be equal to 1. And if you work out, C will work out to be as as was said, it will B minus A, which also matches your common sense. Okay, fine. Yeah, common sense is good and it gives you good intuitions, but when you have complicated situations, that common sense might not readily work, and then you will need the help of formulas. Okay, so fine. So you should also calculate the variance of this particular random variable. Okay, again it will be something in terms of A and B. Okay, so we understood what a uniform, continuous distribution is. So let's look at some other important, continuous distribution. Okay, there is something called the exponential distribution. Okay, so this is kind of the continuous analog of your geometric distribution. Okay, so okay, why do I say that? We will see it in a few questions. Okay, there's a reason for it being called continuous version of geometric distribution. Remember, geometric distribution was the number of time you should wait such that you will get a hits. Okay, and exponential is kind of the analog of that. Okay, so a continuous distribution is given by specifying the probability density function. Okay, so the probability density function of a exponential distribution is as follows. It is positive value, yeah, and 0 otherwise. Yeah, there's a parameter lambda. So just like the geometric distribution had this parameter called P, the probability of hits. Yeah, the exponential distribution has a parameter lambda, and this is the exponential distribution. It is yeah. So first thing, when somebody gives you a probability density function is, you should check whether the probability density function integrates to 1. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Okay. So question is, let's integrate fx of x. Let's say, okay, so it is only taking positive value. So you get 0 to infinity dx. So what is this quantity? Does it integrate to 1? So if you do the integration and put the limits, you will find out that this actually integrates to 1. Okay, so at least the probability mass function is reasonable. Okay, it is integrating to 1. And how does it look like, the graph of this function? Yeah, so you have 0 and you have fx of x. So how should I draw this? We'll draw it like this. Is that fine?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So how should I draw it? The other way?
So it should start from infinity and then converge.
It starts from infinity.
No, this is right.
Okay.
Yeah, but what is the value here?
Lambda.
So if we substitute x equal to lambda, fx is lambda times e raised to 0, which is, and it keeps on decreasing. So it kind of doesn't flatten, actually, it keeps on decreasing. So this is called an exponential this thing. So this is typically so yeah, we'll come to it where it is used and everything. Okay, so this is called the exponential distribution, and you need to find the expected value of let's say x is distributed according to exponential distribution. What is the expected value of x? So what is the expected value of geometric?
One by p.
1 by p. So yeah, let's compute the expected value of exponential. Yeah, so it is integral x 0 to infinity. Yeah, lambda e raised to minus lambda x dx. Yeah, and yeah, can you compute this? Can you take 1 or 2 minutes and compute this? Yeah, so you will need to remember your integrals and everything. Okay, yeah, you will need to. Okay, how do you integrate this? Does everybody know how to integrate this?
By parts.
You have to do integration by parts and everything. Okay, and if you do all the computation correctly, you should do it yourself. Okay, at least once you should do all these things yourself. I mean, all these things you know already. This will work out to be 1 by lambda. Okay, so yeah, there is some similarity between p and lambda. Okay, there is some similarity between p and lambda here. Okay, so I mean the exact reason for it, again, I will try to give a problem where that will be concrete. Why you say that? I mean, exponential is a continuous version of geometric. Okay, so roughly speaking, let's say you are geometric random variables and okay, I will come to it later. Okay, it's an entire story on its own. Yeah. So fine. Okay, so whenever you talk about continuous random variables, another important function is called the cumulative distribution function. Okay, and this is typically called the CDF. Okay, the CDF. Okay, so it is written by capital F. Okay, density function is small f, and capital F is the cumulative distribution function. Yeah, so the cumulative distribution function, let's say at some particular point A, is nothing but the probability that x belongs to minus infinity to A. That is, x's probability of x less than or equal to A is called the cumulative distribution function. Yeah, and how do you get this value? You integrate. That's the only thing you can do in a continuous distribution. So this is that fine? So this is the definition of cumulative distribution function. It is just the integral of the density function from minus infinity to A. Yeah. So sometimes in many problems you'll be given the cumulative density function, cumulative distribution function, not the density function. So actually, if you from this formula, if you actually just take the derivative of it, you'll find that fx of x is actually d by dA, yeah, of yeah, so if you are given the cumulative density function, sorry, cumulative distribution function, just take the derivative of it, yeah, with respect to the input variable, you will get the density function. Okay, so in many problems you will be given the cumulative distribution function. Okay, so these are just definitions that you should know. Yeah, we will see a lot of examples, and yeah, there's nothing new here, just integration, some definitions, and everything. That's all. Okay, so what is the cumulative distribution function for exponential? So CDF for exponential distribution. Yeah. So yeah, let's just write down the formula. Fx of A is basically integral minus infinity to A. Yeah. So the density function was lambda e raised to minus lambda x, right? So it's lambda e raised to minus lambda x dx. Yeah. And yeah, if you do this, what do you think you will get? So if you do this integration, you will get this to be 1 minus e raised to minus lambda x. Okay. Minus lambda a, sorry. Yeah, so okay. So what is the probability of x greater than a? What is this? You need to tell me.
1 minus fx.
Yeah, it is 1 minus fx of a. Yeah. And that is e raised to minus lambda a. Okay. Yeah. So suppose you are given the cumulative distribution function. Can you find the probability of a random variable to be in any particular interval? So what is the probability that x belongs to some interval a to b in terms of the cumulative distribution function? Sorry.
fx of b minus fx of a.
Yeah. So yeah, so there is you can see the picture. So a to b you want. So capital F of b will have everything from minus infinity to b. Capital F of a will have everything from minus infinity to a. So now if you just subtract, you will get the interval. Yeah. So yeah, so cumulative distribution function makes life little bit easy, because if you have this density function, you will need to always integrate. If you want to find the probability of being in an interval, you will always need to do this integration business. For uniform distribution, things were very simple, but how do you plan to find the probability in a particular interval for this exponential distribution? It's a complicated distribution. How do I find okay, the probability of being in this interval? Yeah, it is very different depending upon where the interval is. So yeah, instead of doing this integration, okay, when you do cumulative distribution function, that integration is done for you, and you can find the probability of things in any interval again using a simple formula. Yeah. So many a times when you have continuous distribution function, it's easier to work with cumulative distribution functions. So okay, so we saw what density function is, what cumulative distribution function is. We saw a uniform distribution and the exponential distribution. Okay, yeah. So we will see one more distribution today, okay, which is actually the most important probability distribution ever. Okay. So this is called, yeah, you probably already know, like, yeah, what is the most important probability distribution?
Gaussian.
Yeah, Gaussian. So this is a universal distribution. It comes up everywhere, anywhere and anywhere you can think of it. Gaussian distribution will come up. Yeah, why is that? There are particular reasons for it, which we will come to. This is called the normal or Gaussian distribution.
Normal distribution is very much depending on the mean, right? Mean of that variables.
Yeah, let me just come to it. Okay. So yeah, it's a distribution. It has two parameters. Okay, the parameters for now we will call it A and B. Okay, what A and B? It is some parameters that define the distribution. What A and B is, I'm not saying now. Okay, and the density function looks like this. Okay, so Z is a random variable which works according to normal distribution. The Z is like this. Of x is 1 by root square root of 2 pi b, okay, into e raised to minus x minus a the whole squared, yeah, divided by 2b squared. Yeah, I hope it is correct what I wrote, but yeah, most likely it is correct. Yeah. Okay. So a random variable x, okay, is said is distributed according to the Gaussian distribution with parameters a comma b if the density function looks like this. Okay, it's a complicated looking density function. Okay. Where is this coming from? What is this? Okay. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So let's plot the graph of it. Okay. So whenever you have continuous distribution, to understand what the distribution is, you just plot the graph of the density function. Okay, and then you will see what the picture of it, how it looks like. So let's look at that. So this is your x. Okay, this is your origin. This is your x, and this is your yeah. So how does it look like? What do you think it looks like? Where do you think the largest value of this quantity is?
It should be around the mean. So some values will be at the left side and some value at the right side. And most of the data will be concentrated around the mean.
Yeah, so I don't know what the mean is actually. This is some complicated formula. I don't know what the mean is.
So when we put x equal to a, then we will get the highest value.
So you can verify, I mean, where is the maximum value of your density function? You can just differentiate equate to 0 and everything, and then you will say x equal to a. You differentiate and equate to 0, you will get x minus a equal to 0, and you will get x equal to a. Okay, so let's say a is here, and if you substitute x equal to a, what is the value you are getting?
1 divided by under root 3 pi into b.
Yeah, so this is something like 1 divided by square root of 2 pi b. Yeah, so that is the kind of the maximum value. Okay. Now, what more can you say about this function? How is it going to be distributed in the left and right hand side?
Because of the e raised to minus part, it will go down.
So the important thing is there's a square sitting here. Yeah. So basically, it will be symmetric across x equal to a. This function, let's say x minus a, the whole squared sitting here.
Yes.
So if I go to the right of a or the left of a, it will look the same. Yeah. So it might look like something like this. You don't know, it might look like that. Yeah. Does it look like that? So important thing is it doesn't look like that because it's actually exponentially decaying from x equal to a. Yeah, how does exponential decay look like? We already saw in exponential distribution. It looks like this. So it actually is looking like so around x equal to a to both sides, it looks like an exponential distribution. Yeah. So that's what a Gaussian is. It looks like that. Is it clear what the Gaussian looks like? Now, what do you think the mean of a Gaussian is? What do you think the expected value of the Gaussian is?
A.
This figure is symmetric across A, right? So if you just average out, in the end you will get the value A only. Okay, that is your common sense reasoning. Other way of finding out the mean is using the formula expected value over x f of x dx. Okay, if you want to do it using the formula, you can do it. Yeah, x f of z of x dx. Okay, and you will do a lot of calculation and find out an answer, or you can just look at this figure. Okay, and its figure is symmetric across x equal to a. So left hand side and right hand side will average out and you will get x equal to a. If you look at the figure, you can use that common sense and say it is actually equal to a. Okay. Otherwise, you can just do this integral and convince yourself. Yeah. So, and what is the variance of C? Yeah. Again, you will need to do a lot of calculation. There is no intuitive way of seeing this. If you do your formula, yeah, if you do this calculation, you'll get this to be equal to b squared actually. Okay. Yeah. I hope I haven't made any mistake here, but yeah, I think it is correct. So it is b squared. Yeah. So this a and b parameter of your Gaussian distribution are actually the mean and variances of that distribution. Yeah. So a is actually the mean of Gaussian. Okay, so typically it is called mu. And similarly, b is nothing but the standard deviation of the Gaussian. Yeah. So your Gaussian distribution is parameters by two numbers a and b, and that numbers also happens to be the mean and standard deviation of the Gaussian. Yeah, so the parameters directly give you the mean and the standard deviation. Yeah. So yeah, so we saw one more distribution which is called the Gaussian distribution. Yeah. Gaussian distribution has two parameters a and b, and the density function looks like this. We drew the figure for the density function based on some common sense reasoning. The mean has to be at x equal to a, it has to be symmetric at x equal to a, both sides, and both sides it should look like an exponential. We already saw how the exponential curve looks like. It is like this. Okay. So yeah, and also from this figure we worked out that okay, expected value is a and the variance is yeah, that we didn't work out from the figure. You had to do the formula calculation for this. You will get it to be b squared. Yeah. The parameters of the Gaussian distribution are just the mean and the standard deviation of the Gaussian. Okay, so that's all for today. If you have any questions, I can take a couple of questions. We will see a lot of examples. Yeah, in the tutorials as well as the next class, we will see a lot of examples. No questions?
Sir, do we need to remember this formula of Gaussian distribution?
Yes, yes. Gaussian distribution you should know. Yeah, you should always remember Gaussian distribution. So that's the advantage of working with random variables. Otherwise, you will need to each time sit and calculate everything. Formulas, it's bad because you are taking this as a black box and you are not understanding what is happening behind. But formulas are good also in solving problems, because if you know the formula, you know the answer directly. Okay, so both things you should be there. You should by heart some things that will be helpful for you to be fast and quick. You should also understand how that formula comes. Okay, and we have tried to do a little bit of both in this course. Yeah.
Sir, from where do you suggest we practice all these various distributions?
So, I mean, I have already shared a link to the MIT OCW course. Yeah. So we are trying to provide as much as example as part of the class as well as the tutorials. Okay, and I'll put out more things in the discussion forum as well. But if you go to that MIT OCW material, there are plenty of solved examples, plenty of it. Yeah, lot of solved problems, exercises, even the videos of TAs are available. If you just go to that website, there are plenty of examples there. Also, your textbooks has a lot of examples. Both the two reference materials, the probability course website, as well as the lecture notes in the PDF, they have a lot of examples. So that is your primary place. First, you solve the problems in the textbook. Yeah, both the textbook, read the material and solve the problems there. Understand the solved problems. Yeah. Secondly, if you still want more practice, you can go to the MIT OCW and look at the problems.
Sir, are we going to discuss about like some problems like let's say the marks of a subject of all students? So what distribution it is falling into? So are we going to solve those kind of problems?
Yeah, we'll solve a lot of practical problems based on this. Yeah, so there were a lot of complaints that okay, we are only doing abstract problems. So now we are in a position of doing more practical problems, more real life problems. Initially, the first chapter is we are doing the plumbing work. Then there are only abstract problems available. So now we are in a position of solving really good problems, which are practical, from machine learning, from communications, from all sorts of places. And I'll be putting out more problems like that. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all for today. Okay. Yeah. So bye for now.